My name is Zhao Cheng. Well, that's the name on the payroll anyway. To the world, I'm just a research scribe in the National Library, basically a glorified bookworm with a dead-end job. And honestly, it's the perfect cover, because my real story, the one that matters, started when I died in another world and woke up right here, in this one. So let me ask you this. Imagine a world where your entire future, your whole potential, is decided by a roll of the dice. A system literally assigns you a class and tells you what you're worth. That's the reality here. But what if you were the one person who came into this world with, well, let's call them extra features? What if you could see the code behind the game? That's what we're going to break down today. To really get what I'm doing, you need to understand the baseline. I woke up in the body of a 16-year-old kid, Bai Xiaocheng. Poor guy had just been assigned the absolute worst class in the entire system, Pathfinder. He was so crushed he just gave up. And that's where I came in. My first move? Find a place where no one would look twice, a role so boring I could just sit back and figure out the rules of this new world. And this job? Perfect camouflage. The National Library is where talent goes to die. They pay you just enough to survive, and you spend your days staring at texts that no one has been able to decipher for centuries. But see, that's the beauty of it. For most, this place is a tomb. But for someone who can actually read the code, it's not a library. It's an arsenal of forgotten weapons. And this is the core of it all, the central anomaly. My last life was in a cultivation world that was way, way more advanced than this one. So when I woke up here, my mind was already fused with this status window. It's like a game interface. Now, everyone here has a system, but they don't seem to get what it's truly for. For me, it's not just a status screen. It's my single greatest analytical tool. So to really appreciate my advantage, you need a quick history lesson. Everything about this world as we know it changed back in 2050. There was this global cataclysm they call the Great Rupture. It literally cracked the planet open. It was devastating for sure. But those cracks released something ancient into the air. Spiritual energy. Qi. And just like that, the fundamental laws of physics were rewritten. The global power balance just shattered overnight. People figured out they could absorb and use this new energy. They called it cultivation. Suddenly, a handful of cultivators could make an entire army's worth of modern weapons totally useless. It was chaos for a while. But out of that chaos, a new superpower rose from the ashes. Dragon Country, led by the ancient, powerful Qin bloodline who basically established a new imperial dynasty. And this right here tells you everything you need to know about that power shift. The old top dog, Eagle Country, tried to flex its muscles, launched a bunch of nukes. Dragon Country's response wasn't to launch their own. No, they just sent a few high-level cultivators who literally caught the missiles midair and returned them. Just like that, technology was obsolete. A new age had begun. So, with this new energy came a whole new way of organizing society. It's all built around these cultivation sects, and they're tiered by pure power. You've got your mortal ranks at the bottom, your earth ranks for the elites, and then you have the heaven ranks. We're talking legends, people supposedly backed by actual immortals. In this world, your sect isn't just a school, it's your entire life. So, how do you get into one of these sects? How is your potential even measured? Well, this is where things get really rigid. When you turn 12, an inbuilt system just assigns you a life path. It's not about how hard you work or how talented you are. Nope. It's literally a cosmic lottery. The process is almost cruel in its simplicity. You get to pick a general category, combat, support, or crafter, basically telling the system what you hope to get. Then, it just randomly assigns you a class. You could pray for a warrior class and end up an artisan, or you could get something that everyone agrees is completely and utterly useless. And that's what happened to the original Zhao Cheng. He picked combat and got Pathfinder. In this world, that's a joke. It's a class for scouts and porters, a job made completely obsolete by GPS. It's seen as the #1 trash class, period. And that label is what broke him. But what they don't realize is they have fundamentally misunderstood what a Pathfinder actually is. Here's the secret. Here's what nobody in this world knows. Back in my old world, we had a different name for this class, Scholar. A Pathfinder isn't someone who finds paths on a map. They're masters of patterns. They can map the flow of energy in a person's body or see the hidden logic in a broken ancient formation as clearly as you'd read a book. Their job isn't to find physical paths, it's to find the hidden pathways to power. This knowledge alone is my first major cheat code. But trust me, it's just the tip of the iceberg. My rebirth didn't just give me a new body. It came with a full suite of upgrades that let me exploit this world's systems in a way no one else can even imagine. My toolkit is pretty stacked. First, all the memories from a much more advanced civilization. Second, my core energy is primordial phoenix chi, which means any technique I learn gets purified and perfected. Third, the true Pathfinder skill, which lets me see broken systems as maps to be fixed. And finally, my soul is just stronger, giving me comprehension that's off the charts. It's the perfect toolkit for breaking this game wide open. So, with these tools at my disposal, that dead-end library job became my personal laboratory. I didn't waste any time. I went straight for the so-called impossible tasks, the broken manuals that had stumped the best researchers, including my own boss, for decades. I zeroed in on 2 manuals specifically, an incomplete heaven rank body cultivation art and a busted heaven rank defensive formation. Everyone had given up on them. They saw them as junk, but this is where my cheat codes came into play. My Pathfinder skill let my system map out the broken energy pathways, and my primordial phoenix chi meant I could actually test these flawed techniques on myself without, exploding. So I'm looking at the Golden Sky formation, and my system shows me something amazing. It wasn't just a mess of random runes. It was a complex, encrypted system based on an ancient board game, Wishi. The formation wasn't a spell. It was an unfinished, high-stakes match. Using a game as the foundation for a defensive art, it's brilliant. It turns defense into an interactive puzzle. I just logged a simple hypothesis about it into the system, and that's when my quiet little life blew up. Yeah, that simple hypothesis apparently set off alarm bells at the very top of the empire. A few days later, I get summoned to this royal convention at the Imperial Palace. It's packed with all the top experts in the country, and what are they all there to talk about? The exact formation I'd just been analyzing. So much for being an insignificant scribe. My cover was blown. The second I walk in, I'm singled out by the Supreme Emperor himself. He saw me notice that the formations protecting the hall were a flawed, active version of the Golden Sky formation. And right there, in front of everybody, he puts me on the spot and asks for my opinion. No pressure, right? That whole convention was a political mess, but the real game changer came after. A letter shows up on my desk, and it's sealed with a bloodlock formation. A formation keyed only to my blood. The sender? The third prince. The very same guy whose flawed work on the formation I had just, indirectly pointed out in public. I was expecting a threat, but it was a business proposal. The prince wasn't mad, he was a pragmatist. He saw that I knew what I was talking about, and he proposed a secret partnership. He'd give me resources, provide cover, and I'd give him my straight-up, unfiltered analysis on how to fix these impossible high-level formations. But there was this one chilling detail in the letter. He apologized in case his commander had startled me when he collected the blood sample for the seal, a blood sample I had no idea was ever taken. The message couldn't have been clearer. We can get to you anytime, anywhere. This wasn't a partnership. It was a summons. I wasn't just analyzing the game anymore. I was on the board. So here I am. I got the tools to see every hidden path, every exploit in this world's entire system. But I'm also just a low-level cultivator caught in the gears of an empire. They think they've found a useful little pawn. What they don't realize is that I'm analyzing their game board, just like I analyzed that formation. So the real question is, what happens when the pawn who can see the entire game decides to rewrite the rules?